All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Daily Update, my 1000 day challenge. This is day 213. So let's get things started. All right, so first and foremost, you'll notice the balance is actually down by almost 100. And yeah, okay, that's actually due to a couple of trades that was, two trades that was actually closed for both Bitcoin one and also for Link one. So two of which was closed, but Link was somewhat like a re-entry due to a liquidation that was actually earlier than expected. Reason being, I was using isolated margin on that. So do bear in mind that when you're trading with isolated margin, that the issue is that basically, if you do allocate, say, for example, 1R as your isolated margin, the problem is that if you actually have one sell off, because I have multiple trades using the same isolated margin of 200, instead of closing one trade and taking away just $100, the system can somehow, like, for example, take away, say, 120 or even 150, so leaving me with much less margin. And I didn't monitor that, and it was actually triggered the liquidation in that sense. So do bear in mind that when you're using isolated margin, there's pros and cons. Pros in the sense that you do limit your losses that you actually getting into in the event of your liquidation as well. Of course, there could be some liquidation fee that can be incurred, but of course, it's very much still protected in that sense. All right, otherwise, in terms of that, my experimental setup did have a positive winning trade, and the reason why I actually didn't profit as much as it had was because there was a inaccurate in terms of stop loss count, because I was actually out, but I noticed the trade being triggered in terms of a signal that was being seen. I was waiting for price to reach that level, and it did for a link, and then hit the level. I entered the trade, but the position size was less than usual, less than what I would have wanted. So I did take profit on the same level as well. And yeah, so it is what it is right now. All right, otherwise, in terms of the market structure update, as today is Monday, I'll only be covering in terms of Bitcoin wise. So on the weekly chart, we do see somewhat like a bearish momentum that I mentioned yesterday. So very nice bearish engulfing candlestick. So potentially the downside could still be in play for this week. But of course, on the macro, on the more closer look, say for example, on a daily chart or even on the forward chart, things looks to be a little bit more bullish in that sense, especially today. On the daily chart, we could potentially be forming a bullish engulfing candlestick, and the volume has still some way to work through it before it's a more convincing bullish kind of candlestick pattern. All right, other than that, if you look in terms of forward chart, it's even more bullish, which is why I've actually entered this trade itself based on price action as well. So over here, what I mentioned, the reason why I mentioned yesterday, if you look over here, is a potential long setup. If there's a bullish market structure on the 4-hour plus a break in terms of the 20 exponential candlestick. So actually did break with this candlestick. So entry will be around here at 47,750. So you could still enter a little bit here, and stop loss will be right below the low of this here. So yeah, a 1:1.5 will be somewhere around here. But do bear in mind that because overall, like what I mentioned on the weekly and also on the daily chart, that we are still potentially could be facing a little bit more further downside. We could potentially be taking some sort of profit if it does hit over here, the first level of resistance over here. If it does break over here, hit some resistance over here, then again, I may choose to take partial profit, say for example 20% here, 30% here, and then after that, I'll move my stop loss to break even and trail along the way. So that could be a potential way I use to trade, depending on how strong and being aware of the overall macro situation or the bigger picture in terms of the weekly chart that looks a little bit weaker in that sense. And yeah, so that's basically how I would trade when it comes to price action. But overall, the reason why I was willing to enter a trade, as you can see, even though price was forming a lower low, the strength of the momentums of the sell-off is actually getting weaker in that sense, as you can see on the MACD chart. So yeah, and things on the green in terms of the positive MACDs are picking up. So similarly, that is a good sign. But of course, we are, like I mentioned, on the daily and weekly chart, we could potentially still see further downside in that sense. And yep, that's more or less about it. And hopefully this week, let's see how the market goes. In terms of traditional market, it'll be very interesting to see how price goes about it, because it could be further pullback, especially from last week itself. But if we continue towards the upside, then things could potentially affect or indirectly being correlated with crypto market as well. And yep, that's more or less about it. Oh yeah, one more thing to say is, in addition to it breaking above this 20 exponential moving average, which has been rejected one time, two times, considered like three times, and this is like the fourth time they actually break above. There is also like a downslope kind of trend line that you can consider a break above as well. So yeah, there's the kind of additional confluence that makes me a little bit more confident in entering in terms of price action wise. Otherwise, that's more or less about it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.